Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Spring Swing. I should probably do a disclaimer right now. We should probably have called it Cool Fusion, because most of the tunes, at least for the first four tunes, are going to be jazz fusion or jazz rock oriented. But the first tune was a tune called Birdland. It was written by a man named Joe Zawinul. Joe Zawinul was a piano player with Cannonball Adderley and Nat Adderley back in the 1960s. And at that time, they were playing a type of jazz that was called soul jazz. But in the 1970s, Joe Zawinul went on to play in a group that he led that was called Weather Report. And Weather Report had a big hit in the mid-1970s that was called Birdland. And Birdland was a club in New York City that was named after Charlie Parker, better known as Bird. And that particular tune was to pay tribute to him. We featured Casey Brown on electric guitar. And I'm happy to say that Casey will be starting here in the fall, here at Penn State Abington. This next tune is a very old standard. It's called There Will Never Be Another You. It was written by Harry Warren for a musical that came out in 1942. I never heard of this musical before today, but the musical was called Iceland. Sounds cold. I'm going to have to bring my own drummer for my bad jokes. In any case, this next tune is called There Will Never Be Another You. This next chart is a tune called Fool Me Once, and it's by a man named Gordon Goodwin. Now, Gordon Goodwin is a studio musician out on the West Coast, and he's in LA. He does film scores for movies. One of the films that he worked on was a film called Con Air that featured Nicolas Cage. But he's mostly known for his cartoon music, which is kind of unique. But in LA, he has a big band that is made up of studio players. They've been to this area several times. They played for the Berks County Jazz Festival. They've done various things in South Jersey at some of the larger high schools. But that band is called Gordon Goodwin and his Big Fat Band. Okay, but this is a piece that it sounds a little bit like James Brown type of funk, but it also sounds like cartoon music. It's like a combination of both. So this is the tune "Fool Me Once." Thank you. Sounds a little bit like cartoon music. This next tune, we'd like to invite to the stage our full-time music person here at Penn State Abington, John Pachanis. John. This is a tune called Vehicle. It's written by a guy named James Petternick, but he was a part of a group that was called the Ides of March. And back in 1970, in May, they had their single hit, their one-hit wonder. It ranked number 2 on Billboard's Top 100 for that particular week, but it was called Vehicle. I think I came across this tune first with a group that was called 10 Wheel Drive. Did you ever come across that? No? Well, this is Vehicle, and it's a borderline of probably more like jazz rock in that it echoes the sound of blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of people that hear this tune get it confused with Blood, Sweat, and Tears because it sounds like that particular band. But they were right on the borderline of when they stopped calling jazz rock, and they started calling it fusion. So this is Vehicle. We're going to feature John not only as a vocalist, but as an organist.
Oh boy. Take that voice. Stop my car. I got this candy on the rubber man. I'm gonna take you to the nearest stop. Your vehicle, baby. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, now I'm sure you know that I love you, need you. I want you, got to have your child. Break out and let me know I love you. I'm gonna take you to a Hollywood. But if you wanna be just a real outfit, I think that you really should. I'm your vehicle, baby. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman. But by now I'm sure you know that I love you, want you, need you, got to have your child. Break out of here when you know I love you. axle down, won't you hop inside my car? I got pictures of candy on the rubber of man. I'm gonna take you to the nearest star. I'm gonna take you, baby. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm gonna take you, woman. Now I'm sure you know that I love you, want you, need you, I got to have you. But I love you, I want you, I need you, got to have you, child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you.
Yeah, John. Who knew? Okay, this next tune is called Night Train. We're going to whittle down our group just a little bit. This is going to feature four horns and rhythm section, and the arrangement was done by Larry McKenna here in Philly. How many of you have heard Larry play? Anybody? Oh, a Philadelphia treasure. If you ever get to hear Larry McKenna play, please go and hear him. He's a great, great musician. He's played with, a lot of really great people, including Sinatra and Rosemary Clooney, Tony Bennett, just to name a few. But this is a tune called Night Train, and it's given credit to a man named Jimmy Forrest. And this dates back to, I have to look at this. It dates back to 1951, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. Jimmy Forrest used to play for Duke Ellington. And Duke Ellington had a couple of tunes that he used to do that they sounded like Night Train. One of the tunes was called, and Jen, where's Jen? Jen, are you out there? Okay, she's not acknowledging me. Oh, there she is. She'll like this title. It was called That's the Blues, Old Man. Okay. She calls me old man. Anyway, that was one of the names that this tune was known by, and that dates back to 1940. And then there's another one that also is from the Ellington Band that was called Happy Go Lucky. And it featured the same kind of melody. So how can they do that? Well, one of the things about this tune is that it's what we call a riff tune. Riff tunes back in the 1940s and early 1950s were very popular, especially with the Kansas City players. Not so much the New York players, but the Kansas City players. The Kansas City players had a great reputation for improvising, but they weren't so much good readers. They couldn't read music well. So they'd make up music on the bandstand at the gig. They'd have a music stand out and everything, but there wasn't any music on it. And they would just create these riff tunes over what were called 12-bar blues. And the riff for this particular tune sounds like... repeat a number of times. Meanwhile, the chord progression underneath it is changing all the while, and that was the whole tune. That's the way that they created tunes. And this one is called Night Train.
Good night.
All right, and then there were three horns. So this next selection features three horns in rhythm section. Surprisingly, this is a tune that didn't come from a show. It was written by Kurt Weill back in 1943, and it was just a popular song. We're going to do it a little differently. I don't think he intended it as a bossa nova, but it's we're going to perform it more in the style of Antonio Carlos Jobim and the cool school of jazz players, including Miles Davis and Stan Getz. The tune is called Speak Low. We call it Speak Slow. He's learning. He's learning. Yes. Yeah. Before we close tonight, there's a few people that I'd like to thank. And you probably already noticed this in your program. We extend our special thanks to Dr. Roy Robson, John Vichence, Tracy Reed, and Lion Productions for their continued support of this performance. We wouldn't be able to do this without any of them. Our last tune of the evening is another Joe Zawinul tune, and it does fall under the classification of soul jazz. This was made popular back in 1966 by a group called the Cannonball Adderley Quintet, which featured Cannonball Adderley on alto sax and Nat Adderley on cornet. A lot of trumpet players by 1966 had given up the cornet and went to trumpet. He was one of the few holdouts, and he continued to play cornet all his life. But this is another tune by Joe Zawinul, but it's a little bit different in that there's not as much electronics. And, okay guys, everybody switch instruments. I need to tell you something. A lot of these people in the jazz band play more than one instrument, and sometimes it really comes in handy, except that time. Teddy Austin, he's not only a great trumpet player, but he plays keyboard and piano very, very well. And I know he's a great singer, but I can't get him to sing for me. I ask him every semester, and I can't get him to do it. But he wants to be an opera major, and I know what kind of chops it takes to be an opera singer. So I know that he sings really well. One of these days, I'll get him to sing. Kendall Johnson back here, he's been playing bass a total of what time is it now? Maybe over a weekend, over the last week. Kendall's really a guitar player and hasn't played much bass. We lost our bass player several weeks ago. He got married and was never to be heard from again. And I think everybody else is okay. And everybody else has their own instrument and is playing the majors. So this is Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. So that was our spring swing, or cold fusion, or whatever, cool fusion. We hope you'll join us again in the fall. It's always a pleasure playing music for a live audience, and we're just getting started, so please check back and observe our progress next fall. Thank you again, and I think that is it for tonight, so if we could have some house lights. Maybe? Oh, there they are. Okay. We're set.